some point in time.
Joe Morabito!
How's it going,
How are
Linda? Good stuff.
They're gonna mute us, so let's make sure you
Oh,
know.
they're gonna mute us?
Yeah.
This meeting is being held in compliance with the Brown Act. SCAG offices are open for members of the public to attend and participate in person. Instructions for providing public comment have been provided in advance and are also included in the agenda packet. If a member of this body is attending remotely but is not at a location specified on the agenda, they may observe and comment as a member of the public, but may not participate in any member discussion or voting of this body. For all members participating remotely, please ensure your microphone is muted when not in use. Please state your name during deliberations and whether making a motion or offering a second. Any voting member or member of the public calling into this meeting by telephone can press *6 to mute and unmute. All telephone participants should identify themselves prior to speaking. SCAG encourages all members of the public to participate in its meetings. We are committed to holding meetings accessible to people with disabilities. For members of the public requiring ADA accommodation, please call 213-236-1895. SCAG offers free interpretation services for members of the public needing information in another language. Please call 213-236-1895. The meeting will now begin.
Today is Thursday, July 2nd, T-minus 2 days to our 250th birthday. Welcome. This is the meeting of the Community Economic and Human Development Committee, and it's now called to order. As a reminder, if a member of this body is attending remotely but is not at a location specified on the agenda, they may observe and comment as a member of the public, but may not participate in any member discussion or voting of this body. And before we do the pledge, I want to acknowledge we have a room full of guests. We have some high schoolers from Whitney High School here today observing. Welcome. Now I'm going to ask our Honorable Cecilia Hupp to lead us in the pledge, please.
Please join me in saluting the flag of our great nation. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hupp. Clerk, do we have a quorum? Thank you. I'll now open the general public comment period of this meeting. This is the time for members of the public to offer comment for matters that are within SCAG's jurisdiction but not listed on the agenda. Have we received any written public comments after the deadline of 5 p.m. on Wednesday, July 1st?
No, we have not.
We have not. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? Whitney High School? No? Okay. I'll now close the, and no one online?
No.
Okay, and I'll now close the public comment period for matters not listed on the agenda. Do we need to prioritize any agenda items? None at this time. Okay. And do we have any members of the public who wish to speak on that item? No. So we're now on the, I'm sorry, that was consent calendar. Do we have anyone who wants to speak on the consent calendar? No. All right.
Move it.
Shapiro, second.
In order to save time, does anyone pull anything? No? Okay. Then we have a motion to approve from Bucknam, and I think I heard Shapiro as a second. And can we call the roll, please?
Yes, this is for the consent calendar.
Yes.
Cindy Allen, Valerie Mesqua, Joe Baca,
Aye.
Debbie Baker,
Aye.
Wendy Bucknam,
Aye.
Chelsea Byers.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Don Caskey, Tanya Doby,
Yes.
Deborah Dorst Parada,
The danger that they put somebody else's.
Keith Ike,
If they have to come up there and get them, you know, we've seen.
Sean Elias,
Aye.
Thank you.
Of these high risk, low.
Bob
ball,
Engler,
Yes.
They're very dangerous.
Rosa Espinosa, Raymond Furman,
In college, and they did.
Even with the charges, I fear there will be little
Nadia Panetta,
for every guy that's seeing this and thinking it was awesome.
Martin Fuentes,
No is saying,
John Gabbard,
Yes.
Gary Gardner,
the three, you read the felony charges.
Mike Goodso,
Yes.
Some of them
Kim
actually
France,
years each. And that's in addition to the year that they could pay for everything.
Cecilia Hupp,
Yes.
William Hussey,
Yes.
Linda Johnson,
Yes.
Matt Levere,
Yes.
Jim Light,
Yes.
Annie Marshall, Betty Martinez Franco,
Yes.
thank you. Andrew Macio,
Yeah.
Geneva Mojado, Joseph Morabito,
Yes.
Cynthia Moran,
Yes.
thank you. Joe Murphy, Sharona Nazarian, Rocky Rhodes,
Yes.
Sheila Rossi,
Yes.
Sunny Santinez,
Yes.
thank you. David Shapiro,
Yes.
Becky Shevlin,
Yes.
Mary Solorio, Helen Tran,
Yes.
Valerie Vandiver,
Yes.
Mark Warrenick, Equinetta Warren, Jeff Wood,
Yes.
Judy Woolsey,
Yes.
In New York City, Mayor.
Tony Wu,
Yes.
Frank Yokoyama,
Yes, from Cerrito City Hall.
and Frank Zaranian.
Yes.
Thank
Keith
you.
Ike is a yes too, sorry.
Yes, one moment. Thank you. Chair the consent calendar, item 1, and receive and file 2 and 3 passes with 33 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstentions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have an information item, the CEHD Committee Outlook and Future Agenda Items. As you know, staff regularly provides updates to on the outlook and future agenda items for the CEHD Committee. This is to provide committee members and the public with the opportunity to provide feedback and understand what is exactly the committee is going to tackle in the coming months. I now call on Elizabeth Carvajal, SCAG's Deputy Director of Land Use, to provide a presentation on this topic.
Right. Good morning, committee members. Again, Elizabeth Carvajal, Deputy Director of Land Use. And so as you recall, every year we prepare an outlook that gives you some visibility on the items that we will be covering this year. This outlook was shared at our Executive Administrative Committee retreat in June. And so just to orient you, every year we do this and we organize the topics based on the presidential priorities. And this year, our presidential priorities are clean transportation technology, housing production, regional planning in support of the 2028 Games, and infrastructure as a driver of housing and economic development. And so the outlook that you see before you on the slide highlights the first half of the year, and the topics are organized around Connect SoCal, local assistance programs, which are when we provide funding or technical assistance to jurisdictions and other partners, and then regional updates. And so in July, if you recall, we brought some REAP 2.0 project showcases. Actually, that's today, forgive me, that's happening today. It's all flying by these days for me. All right, September, next month, the next meeting will be in September. We'll have some information on Connect SoCal, our policy development framework, and our LDX updates. In October, we will have the regional planning policies around Connect SoCal. We'll also bring the RHNA subcommittee charter before you, and we'll have an update on our community hubs approach, which is a program we are developing to support jurisdictions across the region to celebrate the games. In November, we will have the regional housing needs determination and a farm workers housing study as part of the regional updates. December will be a joint policy committee. Then going on to the next half of the year, in January, we'll have Connect SoCal performance measures. We'll also have some more REAP 2.0 project showcases. February will include first results of the LDX, and then we'll have an update on our tax increment financing program. So you may recall we're hiring a consultant to help us develop resources for jurisdictions to explore TIF. We'll have an update on that in February. In March, there will be some update on the Connect SoCal Futures program, and we'll also bring an update on our Complete Communities program, which is another area where we're hiring a consultant to help us look at strategies for land use and transportation integration. April will include more Connect SoCal activities around LDX evaluation, and we'll have a release of the proposed RHNA methodology. May is the General Assembly. And in June, we'll have the final performance measures for Connect SoCal, the policies for the draft plan in June, and then we'll have a wrap up of the REAP 2.0 program on the land use side for all of you. So you'll notice that some of these have a topic. We expect to have a couple speakers usually for each of these, but this is generally what we're looking at for the next year. Happy to take any questions you may have for me.
All right. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak or ask questions on this? No, then I'll entertain comments from members of the CEHDs. And we have any comments, thoughts? Sorry.
Chair Rhodes, I'd like to request a future agenda item on written guidance standards for HCD input on SB 79 and RHNA methodology. Staff deserves real credit here. The SB 79 methodology work under a hard statutory deadline and genuinely ambiguous state guidance was handled professionally. Thank you, Elizabeth, and to your
Can you
entire
talk in the
team.
microphone? Here.
Sorry.
I want to hear what you have to say.
I know, I have to.
Thank you.
No problem. So my concern is with the process and not with the people. The methodology shifted from a single point and radius to 5 points per station, expanding zone geography region-wide. Changed within a span of a week, and that shift was attributed to HCD guidance. When I raised this issue with HCD directly last week at the SGV COG SB 79 Ad Hoc Committee, their response was that this was advice from their advisory committee, not formal guidance, and the decision was SCAG's to make. That distinction creates real exposure, not just for staff, but for cities. The same methodology is in front of the Regional Council today, and housing advocates are already raising legal concerns about inconsistencies across MPOs on mapping choices, some mapping plan stations for SB 79 implementation and some not. Staff and cities should not have to carry that liability without a written record behind it. Cities could be named in that exposure just as easily as this agency. So I'd like to request 2 things for a future agenda. Documentation of this methodology's legal basis, and heading into our 7th RHNA cycle, that SCAG requests written HCD guidance upfront before decisions are finalized. Getting that right now protects staff, cities, and the whole region going into the RHNA process. Thank you.
Thank you for that request. And I don't know that we need to vote on that. We'll just take it under advisement and move forward. Thank you very much. Any other comments from CEHD? Ms. Bucknam.
Thank you. Just really quick, you mentioned TIF and looking at tax opportunities. I wonder if it would be prudent to also look at opportunities and tools to give to cities as the Olympics are approaching, and looking at hotel taxes and, you know, the why am I losing the word for the hotel tax?
Transit
Thank you so much. Transit occupancy tax. That's it. Tools for cities to rely upon to communicate with the residents, because we have a lot of very old ordinances, and we really should be looking at what those taxes are and increasing them for the visitors that are coming to us in 2028. I wonder if this is something we could do that would be of service to all of our cities, because a lot of times the citizens don't have resources to look at. Just a suggestion, and maybe we can look at that for a future as part of the TIF. Thank you. Thanks.
I'm sorry.
Actually, it's a question for Wendy. Are you talking about like a permanent increase or just temporary?
Well, I would think that it could be temporary or permanent depending on the city. But it's an opportunity for a lot of cities to make an adjustment that really hasn't been made in many cases 20 years. Okay, 50 over here. We got a 50.
Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
can just expand, the tax increment financing program is something we've talked about at one of our previous meetings. SCAG has funded tax increment financing specifically through EIFDs over the last few years, and we find that this continues to be a viable resource for jurisdictions to consider. And so we are hiring a consultant. The contract is going to the regional council today. And what this is focused on is really a two tranche of activities. The first is to help jurisdictions that are exploring TIF to figure out on the front side, does this make sense for me? What are the things that I need to consider to assess whether this is even a viable tool? And if it is, what are the best practices, the tools, the resources, the scopes, the studies that I need to pursue to actually explore TIF, be it EIFD, an enhanced infrastructure financing district, or a climate resilience district, right? Then the second part of the work is we're going to pilot 6 climate resilience districts across the region. And so this is really focused on tying together a lot of the work that we've been doing a little more, I don't want to say it, periodically into a more synthesized program that more jurisdictions can utilize. We can look into whether there's a broader assessment of fiscal strategies that might be utilized as part of the work.
And
we can
maybe
certainly
it's a
share.
separate item and
And maybe
I
it's
combined it
information we
with
bring
something.
in. Yeah, but I appreciate the point and understand the opportunity around the games, around economic opportunity. And so thank you for that.
And if I may add, Ms. Bucknam, on the transit occupancy tax, our city, in anticipation of the games coming up and having not visited it for 30 years, we just approved to put it on the ballot because it has to be approved by,
I know.
right? And so we're getting in it ahead of time because we have an election coming up, which is convenient, but there'll be another one before 28. So, yeah.
It's highlighted.
It's at 12. No.
Oh, sorry. Oh, no. Okay. Others, anybody online with
City of Cerritos.
City of Cerritos?
Hello, Chair. I want to say thank you for the report to Elizabeth, but I also want to give a shout out to the Whitney High School students. This is Cerritos Council Member Frank Aurelio Yokoyama from your hometown of Whitney High School. And I'm a proud Whitney High School alum, class of '86. So thanks for joining us today, Whitney Wildcats. Regarding the TIF program update, thank you for that, Elizabeth. In the interim, who are the SCAG staff members that we can discuss TIF program with in the interim before the February agenda item?
And connect with me. Victor Negrete is the department manager of our Community and Economic Development Department on my team. He will be leading the work, but happy to reach out to him and myself, and I can make the connection.
Thank you, Cerritos. Any others online? All right. Thank you very much for the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry. Vice Chair Wood.
Thank you. And welcome Whitney High School. The city of Lakewood also has a number of students that attend Whitney. So we're proud that you're here. I'm wondering if there's a possibility to talk about workforce development, if that would be appropriate, only because we're gearing up for the games. There's going to be a lot of people hired, and then when the games are over, their jobs end. And, as we look at the whole picture, having jobs and opportunities would be important. I'm just wondering if there would be a place that we could talk about workforce development. There's a lot of workforce development boards around that are doing very great things. I know a number of us serve on them. So I'd be anxious to see if we could, or interested to see if we could talk about workforce development at some point.
All right. And last call for comments. Don't see any. Okay. Now, thank you, Elizabeth, for that presentation. Next on the agenda item is REAP 2.0 HIP program project spotlights. On March 2nd, 2023, the Regional Council approved the PATH program. One of the main programs is SCAG's REAP 2.0 framework. The PATH program includes 3 funding areas: housing infill on public and private lands, HIP, Notice of Funds Available for Lasting Affordability Program, or NOFA, and Regional Utilities Supporting Housing, the RUSH program. The HIP pilot program made a total of $8 million available for projects doing the following: identifying, accessing, and readying infill public and private lands for development with housing with an affordability component, and completing land use regulations for large infill areas and corridors, increasing capacity to achieve housing and supportive amenities and services. Many of the projects within the HIP program reached completion at the end of June 2026. The CEHD Committee will receive 2 presentations today, spotlighting 2 recently completed projects from the HIP program. One will be the City of Culver City HIP with the Fox Hill Specific Plan, and the other is the City of San Fernando HIP, Comprehensive Housing Element Implementation Program. I now call on SCAG Associate Regional Planner Sergio Heredia Melchor to introduce, I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. I'm so sorry. To introduce the speaker for Culver City's Fox Hill Specific Plan project.
Hi, good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Sergio Heredia Melchor. I'm an Associate Regional Planner in SCAG's Housing Department. I've had the pleasure serving as SCAG's project manager for the REAP 2.0 program supporting Culver City's Fox Hill Specific Plan. Over the past year and a half, I've worked closely with Troy Evangelo and his team to complete the project. Troy is the advanced planning manager for Culver City, and he brings with him over 18 years of experience. Now, this specific plan will help guide the Fox Hills neighborhood from a suburban office park into a connected, livable, and green mixed-use neighborhood. And the Culver City City Council actually approved this project on June 8th. So as such, this is an informational item and no action is required by this committee. So with that, please join me in welcoming Troy to tell us more about the project.
Thank you, Sergio. Morning, everyone. Troy Evangelo, Advanced Planning Manager with Culver City. Happy to be here sharing our work that we've done in partnership with SCAG and the HIP grant program for our Fox Hill Specific Plan. I'd like to give just a little quick background and context. Culver City is a West Side city and conveniently located midway between Venice Beach and downtown LA. And that was done on purpose by its founder, Harry Culver, who's a protege of Van Nuys and went out into real estate for himself and thought this would be a great place to buy some property and found a city, and it was. Culver City is known as the heart of Screenland with our legacy movie studios. Here we have the Amazon Studios, unique experience where you can walk down the street, have a single family home on one side and a movie studio on the next. Also the Sony Studios with the rainbow commemorating probably our most famous movie, The Wizard of Oz. So Culver City has thriving industry. We have tech and creative economy, such as Apple, one of their main campuses is being redeveloped and expanded. TikTok, which is actually located in our Fox Hills neighborhood area, as well as some unique avant-garde architecture in our Hayden Tract district. We have a thriving active downtown with shopping destinations, one of the nation's busiest Costco's, and a thriving Westfield shopping center also located in our project area of Fox Hills. So quick recap, Culver City centrally located, lots of industry and jobs, activities and shopping, but what about the housing front? So like many cities, we recently went through a housing element update, and with that, we did a comprehensive general plan and zoning code update. So what we see here are 2 different maps. The one on the left is our old general plan, and it uses a street light color scenario, green, yellow, red. So the green are the areas where we have residential zones and districts. The yellow are our commercial corridors where residential is only allowed as part of mixed use. And then the red are areas where zero housing is permitted. Fast forward to the map on the right after our housing element and general plan, and there was a significant increase in areas zoned for housing. So what you'll notice is all of the yellow has disappeared. So we now allow housing even on our commercial corridors, standalone, residential. And I want to draw your attention to the bottom right-hand corner, that little triangle. So you'll notice comparing the map on the left to the one on the right, it's gone from red to green, and this is our Fox Hills neighborhood. So we'll dive in a little closer and take a look at that in a moment. Along with this upzoning, we've seen a significant increase in new applications coming in. We have a pipeline that's updated monthly, a pipeline report of 4,500 units currently in our pipeline, with a good number of those set aside for affordable. And again, focusing on that bottom right-hand corner, we see our Fox Hills neighborhood and plenty of new developments sprouting up there. So zooming in, looking at our Fox Hills area, we have older housing stock from the 70s and 80s, roughly 3 or 4 story apartment buildings. We have our popular and successful Westfield Mall. And then we have lots of office parks. And this is going to be the focus for this specific plan. So what we've done, if you look at the areas in purple, the dark purple, the light purple, through this project, reimagining this area from traditional suburban office park to high density mixed use, we've upzoned from 0 residential allowed to up to 100 units per acre, a significant change for this area. And again, the goal is to transition from suburban office park to vibrant mixed-use neighborhood. And along with that, this plan focuses on a couple of major concepts, breaking up these mega blocks to reestablish the grid, improving active transportation, walking and biking, and also to make sure, along with the new development, that we capture new amenities for the community. So here's an illustration of our public access ways requirement that we established through this plan. So again, it creates a network and kind of reestablishes that grid, breaking up these mega blocks that were designed basically for cars and trying to retrofit it for active transportation. So this is a requirement when new developments come in, they would dedicate public access way. And it connects to all of our major destinations. So on the top left, we have our transit center, which is right outside of the Westfield Mall. And then it circles through and connects to our Fox Hills Park. And you'll notice some of those smaller, lighter green connections. And those, again, sort of break up the mega blocks and provide access ways through the properties. Along with that, we've included improvements for sidewalks and mobility, with a focus on establishing mobility hubs, and we'll touch on that in a moment. So here's an example of our public access way requirement. Now this is 20 foot wide, so think of like an alleyway, although the way we've designed it is to function for bikes and peds. So one of the things you'll notice is instead of buildings turning their back or turning their shoulder to it, they're fronting onto it. They have entrances, they have activation, they have windows fronting onto the access ways, and also that it's limited to bicycles and pedestrians. So the goal here was to provide for connections outside of the vehicle. Along with that, we've also improved our streets, the double wide sidewalks, enhanced crosswalks, protected bike lanes with concrete barriers to, again, promote active transportation and really try to retrofit moving from car-oriented to people-oriented. And then also introducing this concept of mobility hubs, where we have basically improved transit stops, have other amenities available, wayfinding, circulator buses, things like that. And lastly, we also did some visioning for the transit center at our Westfield Mall. So we didn't have the funds to do a full master plan, but we did look through several different scenarios of how we might redevelop in the future to have more high density development near the transit center. And we actually have grant funding to continue this work to the design phase moving forward. So here's a map rendering, again, kind of showing this retrofit going on, where these mega blocks now have public access ways and paseos connecting through, establishing routes to get, again, to the mall, to the transit center, to the park, and just having more pathways through the neighborhood. So we did some studies along with this. I believe it was actually SCAG funded as well to look at, travel by car, how long does it take, both in time and distance, if you're coming from one of these new developments to say, get to the transit center or the mall, and then redoing that study, looking at once these pathways are activated, and it saves significant time and distance. That concludes the presentation. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Troy, for the presentation. We're going to save questions for this until after the next one as well, and we'll hit you up both at the same time. So
Great, thank you.
thank you. And now call on SCAG Housing Planning Supervisor Michael Dietz to introduce the speaker for San Fernando's Comprehensive Housing Element Implementation Program.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. As Sergio's already mentioned, this is also an info item, so no actions required here. We're just spotlighting a recently closed out project in our HIP program. The city of San Fernando received $1.125 million in REAP 2 funding for a whole suite of housing strategies that collectively advance the REAP 2 objectives. CEHD will hear from the city and the project consultant for this one. I'd now like to introduce Jose Mendeville, San Fernando's planning manager, who will be joining us remotely. And lastly, I want to also thank the project team, Zach Gardea and Edith Avila, who managed it on the SCAG side. They're not able to join, so I'm introducing on their behalf. But apart from that, I'd like to introduce Jose Mendeville, who's joining us remotely. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, all. As stated, my name is Jose Mendeville, planning manager for City of San Fernando. The city used REAP fund. The city used the REAP grant to pass the San Fernando Housing Implementation Plan Project, or HIP project. I don't have looks like I don't have access. Can somebody move the next slide, please? Thank you. The development of the San Fernando HIP project was a collaboration that involved from the city, Juan Garcia, the community development director, Marina Cruceleva, associate planner, and myself, and from RHNA, the city's consultant, John Moreland and Susan Hernandez and Andres Sanchez, and from JZMK Partners, Andrew Watkins, Adrina Hutchinson, and Dennis Augustine. And of course, we worked with Zachary Gardia and Edith Avila from SCAG. Next slide, please. Beginning in April of 2025 to the present, the city, with its consultants, conducted research, implemented public outreach, devised amendment language and policy documents to ensure the city's municipal code and policy documents allow for the implementation of housing production and the housing element goals, and production of applications and manuals to assist the general public and developers. I will now turn over the presentation to Susan Hernandez of RHNA, who worked on this effort beginning in 2025.
Good morning, everyone. So this project was driven by the city's 6-cycle housing element, as well as the SCAG REAP 2.0 grant, which fully funded the effort to implement the housing element goals, programs, and state laws to facilitate the development of housing. Both programs support planned growth, infill development, particularly housing, while preserving San Fernando's character and ensuring compatibility of future residential developments with the surrounding neighborhoods. So we started this project in April 2025, then began our research of the existing conditions and began public outreach with the public, commission, and council. Then in the fall and winter, we began working on the draft documents. The public review documents were released in February 2026. Then in the late spring and summer, we held hearings with the Planning and Preservation Commission and 2 city council hearings. In June, we tidied up the project and tidied up the documents to finalize everything. So this project consisted of public outreach, the zoning code update, the subdivision code update for clarity and cleanup, a zoning map update, a minor land use element update for consistency, the density bonus ordinance update, an update to the specific plan 5, the creation of objective design standards, and an update to the historic survey. It also included the creation of a community stabilization manual, the environmental review, and the update to existing applications and creation of new ones, along with handouts. We conducted a robust engagement plan and engaged with approximately 263 people. We held 7 pop-up events, including at locations like the San Fernando Pride event in June 2025, and then the city's birthday celebration also during that summer. We also had an engagement survey, a Loteria community workshop, and 2 rounds of study sessions with the Planning and Preservation Commission and City Council. For the survey, we received responses from a variety of age groups, from young adults to seniors, and about 55% of the respondents said that they own their home, while a quarter rent, and another 14% live with their family or friends. Though the survey results were not statistically significant, as we needed a greater number of responses. We needed 378, and we received 102 responses. The responses were generally consistent with what we heard from the commission and council at the study session, such as wanting more green space and how they would like to preserve the city's character. So we held 2 study sessions during the early stages of the project to introduce the commission and council to the project. We then held another round of study sessions during the public review period. During this time, we also posted the draft documents on the city website and created social media posts for the city on their social media platforms. The updates we made covered various sections of the zoning code and SP5. The density bonus ordinance was updated to align with the housing element and state law. As required, a 5% density bonus was added for projects that included at least 20% 3-bedroom units. This section was also revised to incorporate best practices and minimize the need for future amendments in response to constant changes of the density bonus ordinance. Additionally, residential standards were updated to ensure compliance with state requirements related to childcare facilities, residential uses, and emergency shelters. And for commercial uses, we updated the permitted uses within the SP5 Maclay district to be consistent with those allowed in the downtown district to help with the vacancy and to allow for more active commercial uses on the Maclay Street. Additional updates reflect best zoning standard practices and align housing and related uses with state law. We also modernized use definitions to current industry standards. In response to input requesting additional plazas and community-oriented open spaces, the objective design standards include a new publicly accessible open space requirement for certain developments, as well as objective amenities standards, such as requiring pools and/or recreation rooms. Other updates to the zoning code included converting the C1 and C2 mixed-use overlays into commercial mixed-use zones to comply with state law and recent court rulings. This was a technical change only. There was no changes to the development standards, as the city had previously already created special standards for the housing element sites through the MU overlays. We also updated the land use element to align with the zoning map and include the MU zones. For parking, we added standards and adjusted ratios for small businesses to allow more flexibility, updated space dimensions to meet state and federal requirements, and added EV charging requirements. Finally, we clarified the objective design standards and streamlined approvals for projects that meet them. We clarified project findings and approvals and revised the zoning code by moving certain standards related to subdivisions back to the zoning subdivision code just for clarity and better organization of the code in general. As mentioned before, the zoning code was updated to comply with various state legislative updates, including ADUs, density bonus law, daycare centers, streamlining 21st century warehouses, and community health clinics, just to name a few. In addition to the revisions to the zoning code and specific Plan 5, the team also created an objective design standards document. These standards ensure that residential and mixed-use developments incorporate solid design principles. The ODS document is divided into 5 chapters with various design standards. The document also includes standards for architectural styles and landscaping. The historic survey was last completed in 2002. Many of the properties and neighborhoods have changed a lot since then. The team completed a citywide survey driving throughout the entire city. And though it was high level, it was very helpful for planning purposes as it screens many of the structures, and it provided an opportunity to look at the historic sites comprehensively, which will help for future decision-making regarding historic preservation. We also created a community stabilization manual that includes information for various resources for tenants, utility service payments, legal assistance, and first-time homeowner programs from the state and other local resources. And these were printed and handed out to the public in both English and Spanish. All right, I will now hand it back over to Jose.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. One of the deliverables was a new set of applications, a uniform application for conditional use permits, site plan reviews, variances, and amendments. This uniform application packet also includes a checklist such as for SB 9 and SB 35-423, and it includes findings for each type of action that the applicant can fill in. These are there are handouts that help. These handouts help developers navigate the various ways that they can increase housing density on their parcels. The handouts also help to summarize housing state law. Next slide, please. And that concludes our presentation. We, along with Rincon, are here to answer questions.
Thank you very much for the presentations for both our presenter groups, and thank you for demonstrating these HIP programs to us. I think we're all, I know I am finding some inspiration from them. We're going to open the public comment part. Do we have any members of the public first that wish to speak on these two presentations? Seeing none, do we have any comments from our CEHD members? Looks like the Honorable Tanya Doby has a question or comment.
It's a little bit of both. And either presenter can answer. First of all, the projects look amazing, like absolutely glorious. I'm slightly jealous, but I love my city. Go Los Al. Whenever I see these developments and the considerations for housing and how the makeup is shifting, I always wonder about the public safety. So can someone tell me how they've planned for more officers in fire and those that will take care of all these beautiful people that want to come and move into our cities? Thank you.
For San Fernando, one of the things is that the city council directed staff to make sure that we were compliant with state law, but at the same time they were cognizant of the extensive single-family neighborhoods that they wanted to protect. The allowed densities in the HIP, again consistent with state law, are not as high as you might find in other cities. There was in reviewing the CEQA side of the project, there was no this HIP did not indicate that there would be an impact to public safety, and any additional officers that are needed would be required through other efforts, but not HIP did not specifically say we need X amount of officers. As far as fire, we contract out with the County of Los Angeles. I'm sorry, City of Los Angeles. Susan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm good. Okay. That was too hard of a question.
Is this thing on? Okay, great. Yeah, from our perspective in the Fox Hills plan, we heard a lot from the community. We had a lot of community engagement, a lot of outreach, and safety is a primary concern out there. More from a sense of the way these streets are designed, they're just a luge where cars would, they're built extra wide, extra long blocks, so they're kind of built for speed. And we've had incidents out there with people being hit And so not so much from fire and police and sort of capacity service levels, but the concerns that we heard were more about design. And that's sort of where, when we did this plan, instead of traditionally just focusing on private property zoning, we also looked at the public realm, the streets, and that was a big concern for the community. And I think we addressed it because, as I was pointing out, having things like double wide sidewalks, having protected crosswalks where they're raised and you can't just fly over it without having your car bounce. Those types of things, including the public access ways and paseos, where it gives an additional option where you don't have to walk on a busy street. You can sort of walk on a pathway through your neighborhood. So those are some of the ways that we addressed safety through design.
That's perfect. So.
And that's a period at the end of that sentence.
Can I do a follow-up? Okay. So my follow-up is, I think that as local legislators and then city staff who should be more mindful of what safety really should be about, I would gently suggest that maybe we look at actual response times. Actually, like I know in my own city, when we went and talked to our local fire authority, no one had really talked to them to help them understand what adding all of this units was going to mean to them in their response times and where they could get out to. My city is about 45% seniors, and I'm surrounded by other cities that have seniors. So we have to be mindful of the fact that our fire departments are responding to our folk that might fall, or they just lock themselves out of their house, or whatever the case may be. And that's something that residents, when all the rest of this stuff is rushing in at them, they're not thinking about. So I'm talking real safety. Someone calls 911 because their home is being broken into, they're getting robbed, something's on fire. That's a bit bigger and doesn't seem like it's being considered with, I get you with the streets.
Yeah.
It's a big deal, but there's other facets of safety.
Thank you. Honorable Wendy Bucknam, please.
Thank you. So later today, we're going to be talking about SB 79. So I'm tagging on to an earlier comment. I was curious if either the Culver City or the San Fernando housing, either of those housing, the specific plan and the housing element is impacted by SB 79 density and intensity provisions. And if so, were you able to have any early discussions about SB 79 while these projects were in development?
For San Fernando, based on the SCAG's map, we are not affected by SB 79. The MetroLink does not have the frequency to require SB 79 developments within the city of San Fernando. However, SCAG did state that in the future that could change, and for right now, we did report to council that we are not affected by SB 79, but that we should be cognizant that changes in MetroLink or Metro light rail could change in the future.
For us in Culver City, the Fox Hills plan similarly is not affected by SB 79. However, we do have another specific plan on the opposite side, on the north side of the city. That's our Hayden Track specific plan, which we also receive grant funding from Metro, not from SCAG. And we are having to tackle that issue. The way we've designed the plan, we're actually going bigger than SB 79. So our densities exceed what's required of SB 79. So in that sense, it isn't as impactful. However, we have had to, reach out to HCD and get guidance. And, it's basically option A or option B. So we found out that we're going to continue our specific plan process as its own separate process. And then SB 9 is going to continue on a separate track, even though they overlap. And a potential applicant or developer, they have the option to choose, and that goes for everything. So they can choose to do an SB 79 development and follow those rules, or they could choose to follow our own specific plan and not even look at SB 79 and just build under our zoning because it gives them the same amount of capacity or exceeds that capacity.
So for both of these plans, how much additional housing has resulted as a result of it?
As I showed earlier, we have a pipeline of roughly 4,500 units citywide. And actually a good number of those are located in the Fox Hills specific plan area because of the design of having these large blocks, large office park buildings, they really lend themselves to redevelopment. And so we've seen probably about 3,500 of those units that are being proposed are focused in the Fox Hills neighborhood. So again, some of those larger parcels have are being utilized for this redevelopment effort. And we're still early in the process. They're working their way through, but the plan has been very effective.
So you
in
have
that sense.
permits and you have applications coming in.
We have applications coming, yes.
Same thing for San Fernando?
This was meant to facilitate the production of housing consistent with our RHNA numbers. So we hope that we'll be able to reach our RHNA goals of about 1,700 units. So far, we are producing housing not at a fast pace, but that's the intent, and that's what the HIP was meant to do, was to implement the housing element, which is with the stated goal of reaching the 1,700 unit count per arena in this current cycle.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it wasn't a plan to do more housing. It was a plan to be consistent with RHNA.
Excellent. The next up, Honorable John Gabbard, please.
Thank you, sir. I'm the mayor down at Dana Point. We're a big fan of mixed use. It's done a marvelous job for our city. It's transformed what was a very sleepy beach town into a much more vibrant community. So kudos for you for taking this on. I want to talk for a moment, if I can, about everybody's favorite topic, and that's e-bike safety, specifically on those public access ways. And just your thinking on how do you deconflict the pedestrian use and the e-bikes through there. That's at 20 feet, it's a pretty narrow passageway. And I just want to understand, I'm here to learn what you guys were thinking about it.
We haven't gotten that far in the design. I will say our public works and our traffic engineer was heavily involved. This is basically his design that we're moving forward with. And we did examine multiple different ways to do it. Again, it's a 20-foot wide path. And we looked at, do we separate it? Do we have a bike path on a portion of it and then a pedestrian path on the other side? And his thought was to have it be a shared use path. But I think you do bring up an important point with the e-bikes, because those are half motorcycles in a sense.
Right.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
your illustration is great in that you had the lady walking the bike, but the reality is it's going to be 14-year-old kids going 30 miles an hour through there. So
We're going to have to tackle that for sure.
yeah.
See some
Okay.
smiles.
Thank you.
Please don't do that.
Thank you very much.
All right, and the Honorable David Shapiro, please.
Thank you. My question was just.
Okay. And Ms. Rossi, you have a question?
Yes, first, thank you to both of you. I think the two plans were very inspiring and also provided a little different context. So on the SB 79 piece, we're currently working on our objective design standards. And what I've been asking to do is actually specifically look at design standards for smaller parcels in the 5 to 10,000 square foot parcels, understanding that those can now have 100 density units per acre and the 65 feet, as well as looking at the 50 density units per acre. It's something that I think has been missed when people are speaking about objective design standards, because they're normally thinking about the very large parcels, similar to the mixed use corridors, but not thinking about how it now impacts a single family zones that sometimes fall into the corridor. And I think the other things that have been raised is, the different infrastructure needs. Would love to see us figuring out how we can look at, for the cities that are impacted, and bringing in more support for the infrastructure and the planning from objective design standards, but also to the multimodal transportation and looking at the microtransit and whatnot, as we're dealing with significant increases in density and not a lot of parking. So thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Jim Light, please.
Thank you. Not so much a comment. Thank you for the presentations. They were very interesting. I think they highlight, two different communities and two totally different approaches based on the uniqueness of the two cities. I want to jump on the comment on, you know, the cost of not just infrastructure, but staffing and things like that, sir. Maintenance on facilities, public facilities. You know, Redondo's 70,000 people, 11,000 people per square mile, 80% of our city's housing, and most of that is already multifamily. As you might guess from that, our jobs to household ratio is less than 1. So we don't enjoy Culver City's, you know, big employers there. In fact, through the years of implementing RHNA, we've forced our biggest industries out of the city. And so it's actually exacerbating our workforce. Our workforce is mismatched from the jobs that remain in Redondo. So now 93% of our working residents commute out of the city every day. That's over half the town commutes. And so that hurts the business districts because they're shopping in places like El Segundo. And on top of that, only 300 are using transit. And the new transit laws are impacting us more. On our metro increased bus frequency by 5 minutes on PCH in our town. Now that whole corridor is opened up. We've already seen 4 properties go to high density residential. And now other properties along there are seeing that, and they're raising their rates to force the businesses out. So we can see the for sale signs going up and the businesses leaving town. So when we do our budget projections on what might come up with the next RHNA, if it's the same size, and we project out to 2050 on our about $120 million budget, we see it going up for a few years and then flattening out and actually declining while the costs go up to the point where we have a $50 million deficit by 2050. And that's unsustainable. So I guess my plea is, as we're looking at the next RHNA cycle, can't just do it the way we've always done it. We've got to look at the fiscal sustainability of cities and look at the impacts, not just from a roadway or what can we convert to more housing. We've got to look at what, you know, what's left in the city and how can you sustain it. So that's my plea as we go forward with the next RHNA cycle, is that we come up with some better method of allocating that takes into account the impacts, not just how do you force more in. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Light. How dare you think about the greater good? I think that's all of the in the room comments. Looks like Irvine has a hand up.
Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. That is very enlightful. As we approach a very interesting new project and getting our hands on building near transit areas, my question is that how do we do to make sure that there are enough schools for the children around those high density areas? I see that here in Irvine, we have a few developments that have been built in the commercial areas with no planning for schools, and they have increased the population in our schools, impacting our old villages and increasing the number of kids in each classroom. So how are you guys doing it to make sure that there are enough schools and enough classrooms for kids?
So San Fernando is a small city, about 25,000, 1 mile by 2 miles. We do not have our own school district. We rely on LA Unified School District. Any development, whether it's commercial or residential, LAUSD collects school fees, which then of course will be used to maintain and upgrade the various schools. In addition to that, I found out, I'm fairly new here in San Fernando, but I found out from one of the council people that there are apparently numerous charter schools in San Fernando as well. But mainly through collecting school fees, we would, help to maintain the public educational system. Also, because the HIP, unlike, by the way, I come from Culver City. Hello, Troy. How you doing? I assisted before coming here in some of the programs that Troy's talking about. It's different in San Fernando. We don't have that as high density. So a multi-unit apartment or mixed use is not going is not gonna generate the same amount of units as what would happen in Culver City. We're comfortable that we can manage proper educational infrastructure with our if HIP is implemented to its full extent.
I'll just answer quickly. For our project, it is an issue. We're going high density. We're adding lots of new units into an area that does not have a school. It's been brought up in our community meetings and, you know, I don't know if it's unfortunately, but it's just a separate government entity. So we have limited influence. While we can suggest and recommend, it's really up to that school district to utilize those funds. And there is maybe a lag. As Jose mentioned, we do get new funds with all this new development. We're going to have new funding for schools, but there is a potential lag period between getting that new funding and building a new school in that neighborhood. So it is an issue that's been brought up and it's real. And our school district is also in a tough financial position as well. So that adds to the problem.
And there is also a lag between we're planning for housing and we're building housing, right? So the kids have to be there to build the school, and yeah. The Honorable Frank Zerunian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the presentation, and I am grateful and really happy that some of our SCAG dollars are going for good use. These are two great projects. For my friends in Culver City, congratulations, and perhaps they're demonstrating that we are not a one-size-fits-all across our cities. Not many cities can say what Culver City can say with respect to their balance about work and housing. Not many of us have TikTok or Apple or Sony in our neighborhoods. Tanya asked my last question, aside from my comment, is that Tanya asked a question about public safety, and I worry about, given some of our concerns with respect to major calamities, the higher the density, higher potential for loss of life in crises. It's not just about response time or public safety, but also emergency management and evacuation plans. We are prone in our state with respect to earthquakes, and earthquakes come with major calamities attached to them. Severance of sewer lines, severance of water lines, severance of gas lines, fire, etc. So the higher the density, the higher potential for loss of life. So I presume, how are they dealing with the issue of emergency management or emergency management planning? I'd love to know, and I'd love to actually engage on that topic more and more as we're doing more research on the topic at the university, at USC. But this is a concern of ours specifically. Thank you.
You know what, something I found out recently, Loomis armored, you know, the people that the armored vehicle carrier, they take money back and forth. They recently located in Culver City. We took a tour of their facility, and the police was there, of course, too. And one of the things that one of the commanders told Loomis is that because it's such a small city and 35 staff in our police department, because geographically it's a small city, they often arrive at a 911 call when it's still active. So somebody calls and says, there's a break-in, I can see them. When the police arrive, the criminal is still there. So they're actually trained to engage 911 calls as they're happening because the response time is so quick because it's such a small city. As far as fire, that I could not answer because, again, we contract with the city of Los Angeles, so I could not answer to that. The densities that we expect, for example, the mixed use is going to be 35 dwelling units per acre. That's nothing compared to 50 or 60 dwelling or even 100 dwelling units per acre. So even a full build out at 35 dwelling units per acre, it's from our standpoint, it's manageable, and also the fact that geographically we're small and our police can get from point A to point B very quickly. And then I don't know, Troy, if you want to continue, Culver City.
You know, we did this analysis. Like I said, we not only, like most cities, did our housing element and our general plan update, which we looked at comprehensively across the whole city. Hazard mitigation was part of that analysis. So for this plan, the Fox Hills plan, it's actually very well situated because it's right next to the 405 freeway. It's right next to the 90 freeway. It's not in a high fire hazard area. It's not in the hillside area. So it's sort of an ideal location, but I understand other cities will have other constraints, high fire hazard area, you know, things like that.
Okay, thank you. And Sharona Nazarian from Beverly Hills.
Yes, thank you very much for the report. I share a lot of the concerns that I'm hearing from our colleagues, and that includes the unfunded mandates that are going to be tied to a lot of the developments that are going to be in these areas, water, public safety, infrastructure, emergency management. And I think that it's important for us to really look at that as policies moving forward. The goal is to increase housing, and for many of these projects, and I know that this is transportation tied to that, but these cookie cutter plans do not work for every city, especially if the cities are already built out, which is really what's happening. And there are developments in areas that, for example, for our city, a lot of people are taking advantage of some of the projects that are being put forward. And instead of creating housing, more housing, it's creating luxury housing. And in turn, increasing the cost of housing for many people. So it really is taking a lot away from what the goals of some of these projects are moving forward. So I just want us to be especially mindful of the impacts that these projects have on already built out cities, and how we can move forward as a committee to have further discussion about that. And those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any thoughts, Troy? All right, we have one more speaker, I believe, online, the Honorable Peggy Wong, but she's not in a agendized location, so she'll be speaking as a member of the public.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me. I apologize about the miscommunication. But I really appreciate these type of projects, and I concur with Frank's comment about what we need to really consider, because here in Yorba Linda, we have a high fire zones, which basically severe hot fire zones for 2/3 of our cities. I'm curious when to the presenter, when you develop or design these projects, even though what you said Culver City is not in where this project is not near any fire safety zones, but do you consider in your design process to have what they call stay in place design, where you know, some of the builders are now promoting that it would be safer for residents to be in the home than evacuate, because they would have put in place designs that would ensure that homeowners and as well as the structure is safe, and that it's better to stay in place than leave. I'm really curious about that, and I think if you can answer that, and I think for this committee to really, how can we have discussions where before a developer puts in all that time and money into developing a project, and then we have no schools for any of the kids to attend? Is it better for developers in the city council to have really realistic, and school districts to have realistic conversations about what services can be provided before you build? Thank you, Chair.
Let me add to some of that. in Culver City, we've tried a couple of different approaches. I think we had a demansionization, and this is getting to the heart of your question. So we had a demansionization ordinance to try to reduce the size of some homes, say in the hillsides or whatnot. And we were challenged and we had to rescind that ordinance. So the larger homes need to stay. Similarly, we had a situation with ADUs in high fire hazard areas where we tried to limit ADU development. That was challenged. That had to go back to allowing ADUs as well. So, you know, the regulations that are upon us are pretty adamant about what they're looking for and what they want. So I would just, you know, add that to the conversation to keep in mind moving forward. Now, as far as designing them in a way that's, you know, can withstand some of these hazards, I'm going to actually tap Jose, who worked at Culver City for 20 years, and you probably have more experience in the hillside developments. I know we have different regulations that apply in those areas. Was there anything that you know, Jose, about
Well, there's the
building
there's
code?
the annual or every 4 years hazardous mitigation plan that Public Works every year does with regard to how they would respond to like what happened over in Boyle Heights with that fire. So there is a hazardous mitigation plan in Culver City in place to deal with that with those kind of hazards. The studies have been done with the hillside. Determinations have been done that where there was a major slide about 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I forget. Right now, the area appears to be stable. You're not going to get high density redevelopment in the hillsides. It's just not going to happen. And there's actually been an ordinance that controlled for density and massing in the hillsides, which was not challenged. That's still in place. That's how I would answer that question. For San Fernando, being relatively new here, I'm not sure, but I would need to check with our Public Works Department. I'm assuming we have the same hazardous mitigation plan, because I believe that's state mandated.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other comments in the room or online. I would like to close out this session with.
Can I just say one thing, sir?
Sure.
Yeah. So something about I heard the term cookie cutter. You know what? I was at Culver City for a long time. I was part of the efforts that Troy was involved in. Rincon was our consultant. Came here. Rincon was a consultant for HIP. Two completely different plans. They were not cookie cutter. Two completely different plans for two completely different communities. And Rincon, being the same consultant, was able to work with each community separately to come up with two separate housing implementation plans to make them consistent with state law. So I would advocate that for cities that, you know, who are, whatever challenges they're facing, that whatever consultants they hire, whatever they do, that they ensure that it's going to be unique to their community. Because in my opinion, both these HIP programs are unique to each of their specific cities. That's all I wanted to say.
Observation. Thank you. I wanted to say that we get presentations about different programs, and we're involved in our cities in different programs, and being 6 counties that's spread out all that. Occasionally you get a presentation that's personal, that's like, oh, I can relate to that. And so I share with you that in 1991, I moved to one edge of Culver City and on Palms, and lasted there about a year, and then moved to Fox Hills. And where I lived in 92, which, if you remember, there was the Rodney King incident. But I'll tell you, as a resident of Fox Hills, I also worked in Fox Hills, and your picture showed the office building that I actually worked in. I would not walk from my apartment to the office then, and seeing what is available now, seeing the design build out of this, that's exactly what we should be striving for, is not only an opportunity to, since we're mandated to increase housing, but not only an opportunity to increase housing, but to do it in such a way that it connects work, live, and walkability and overall quality of life. So I watched that presentation with great enthusiasm. From a little personal note, though, it was a long time ago, when you can actually see the streets and go, I relate. So thank you for the presentations, both of our presenters. We appreciate them very much. And with that, I think we are on to our chair's report. So last month, SCAG published its new SoCal Greenprint web-based mapping tool. SoCal Greenprint supports local jurisdictions, transportation agencies, stakeholders, and local communities to make strategic land use and infrastructure decisions, support conservation investments, and offset the impacts of transportation and development projects. A user's guide with information on how to create an account will be available along with the release of the tool. SCAG's Energy and Environment Committee will hear a presentation on the new SoCal Greenprint tool at their meeting today. So if you want to see that, you can look up their meeting. And now I'll turn it over to the lovely Phil and Rachel for our staff report.
Thank you, Chair Rhodes. Just want to report that later today, SCAG's Regional Council will consider authorizing the release of the draft 2027 Federal Transportation Improvement Program, the FTIP, and Connect SoCal 2024 Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy Draft Amendment 2 for public comment. If approved, SCAG will conduct a public review and comment period for the draft 2027 FTIP and Connect SoCal Amendment 2 from July 6th to August 4th. The draft FTIP and Connect SoCal Amendment 2 will help determine how transportation projects across the 6-county SCAG region move from planning to implementation by identifying investments. In addition to accepting written comments via mail or email for the draft 2027 FTIP and Connect SoCal 2024 Draft Amendment 2, SCAG will also host 2 public hearings where participants can learn more about the draft documents and provide official comments. These 2 public hearings will be held on July 21st at 6 p.m. and July 28th at 10 a.m. Both of these hearings will be virtual and they'll present the same information and remain open for a minimum of 30 minutes based on the participation. You can visit SCAG's website for more information and to register for one of these public hearings. That concludes my announcement. Thank you.
Now, thank you. And now we're on to member announcements. Are there any announcements for the good of the committee? Seeing none, I do have one. I had the opportunity last evening to attend an event put on by Tunnels to Towers that brought the Steel Across of America to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. And we had a wonderful evening and presentation there. That piece of steel, that 20-foot long girder from the Twin Towers, will be there free to the public to come and visit through July 8th. So if this weekend you don't get enough of patriotism and love of country, then you can please make your way up to the Reagan Library in Simi Valley for that event. The other thing that I want to make sure that everyone has a happy and safe 4th of July. Judging by hair color in the room, there's some of us that remember the 200th birthday. Which was a great celebration. 250 is going to be even better. Okay, any other announcements?
It seemed like yesterday.
It does seem like yesterday. Isn't that weird?
50 years ago.
And then, yeah. And last night we were doing the Where Were You on September 11th conversation. So, but that's for a whole nother meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 3rd, 2026. I hope you all have a wonderful time celebrating our 250th anniversary. Thank you for participation. Have a great August off, and we'll see you in September. This meeting is adjourned.